Hey Joe,
Yes, Mark?
imagine for a moment that it is the early '90s, and
Yes.
you're not quite
Mhm.
all that interested in women yet. They don't even want to hang out with you.
I don't even know what one is at that point.
I was going to say this may apply to the 2000s as well, but we're sticking to the early '90s.
I appreciate that, Mark.
and, and for comfort, though, you reach to the PC, and no, we're not talking about pornography because we're even a
No.
little bit ahead of that time. Uh, but but Joe, there were applications for us that were ready to give us that warm embrace, and I know it's how I spent a lot of time in the early '90s. But what about you?
Uh, for reasons mostly in that warm embrace could be captured in seconds as opposed to dialing up and waiting minutes upon minutes to nay longer because of the slow internet times and perhaps one sibling who may or may not have dialed out to another continent in search of a warm embrace. Unbeknownst to him was it being done, and then internet privileges were reduced for all family for a while. But yes, I also enjoyed free games that came on my computer, Mark.
Man, what is it with us and siblings who were looking for love in all the wrong places with AOL?
And that's the thing. Like, I feel like my brother didn't even need to. Like, women liked you. What were you doing? Like, like if I had your gusto and looks, I guess like thinner looks because we look the same. At your age, I would nearly have the problems that I did. But you, like, what are you doing? You don't need pixelized boobs. You could just see real ones.
I mean, hey, it was the early '90s. It was weird, but to that point, Joe, we've covered a lot of video games on this program where we're talking about some of the pillars of like modern gaming within the last 15, 20 years. I would say even within the last 10. But this is one of those rare situations where there are a ton of games that I think people remember, but they may have overlooked or maybe they just repressed that memory because it's been so long. And
Yeah,
there's a ton of them.
I think these are the games where they're easy to slip through the cracks because we took them for granted. And if we had to give a title to this, these are the games we took for granted, free edition.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were. Is they were free, not freemium, so they were truly you had the whole game just pre-installed, waiting for you to find them on your desktop, and it cost you nothing to do it, and it just gave you hours upon hours upon hours of free love, Mark. And where can you get that these days? Because it's in short supply.
Hey, fortunately, this kind of free love was actually legal back then. And it was a pack-in that was known as the Microsoft Entertainment Pack, which, Joe, I guess we're a couple of Windows boys, as a lot of people were back then. And I still think we are, considering that we never used the Crapintosh or the Macintosh, phones that had been made. So, but but yes, we're Windows boys playing with that entertainment pack.
Which, when you put it that way, it just sounds like I had a weird image, and I don't know that this is probably a personal issue, but now I just have this visage of like a younger Bill Gates with banana hammock that just says Windows Entertainment Pack on it,
Oh,
and that's
jeez.
what it is. It's gone dirty. But then I also have to think of ERB with Steve Jobs asking Bill Gates why he named his company after his dick.
Yeah.
So it's all in the air.
Yeah.
So let's shift. This is because we started with internet porn. That's why this is there now.
All I can think of though is that the Windows announcement when like all the Microsoft guys, the execs are up there on stage and they're like, it's the most painfully uncomfortable dancing you've ever seen, and they're like, yep, this is the early '90s. This is what we have now. Okay, like I can't imagine that, but just banana hammocks. But okay, all right,
Yep.
no more.
Okay. No more. No
No more
more.
dicking around, literally. We're going to be talking about these entertainment packs
Yeah.
first, because it's a series of things that came for free with Microsoft machines, Windows-based machines. And what made the entertainment pack so unique was that back in this time period from 1990 to 1994, it was really unique to find games that, to most of us nowadays, would just look like applications, right? Where they're not set within having to load into like a separate window or
Yeah.
basically feel like you're in a different virtual environment in a way. Because Joe, do you remember the MS DOS?
Ooh. Yes, where you have to type in a command and then it does it. Yeah.
Gotta love those command lines, which fortunately we haven't had to use those in many
No,
decades.
God, no.
But back then that was normal though.
Yeah.
You had to jump into MS DOS to do most things, or at least
Hmm.
some of the more complicated things required that. And this was like one of the first times where you just have stuff you can click on, open up, and anybody can really utilize it.
Yeah, because even when you're talking about like having to enter commands and go, when we've talked about something like the earliest RPG games, again, that was like they weren't loaded on your computer. They were on a massive disk that you had to put into your computer, and then it was just a series of you typing in commands to receive like prompts back from the computer as to what's going on in your game. So really, that offers really two things that were unique for the time to the Microsoft Entertainment Pack, and that again, they're just loaded on there. You just click on the app and go, and it's actually you moving something around without having to type a command. You could just use. I think most of these would have been like your. I was gonna say D-pad, but that's not right. The arrow keys on your keyboard, and in some cases just pointing and clicking, and having them just there ready to go at a moment's notice. Just mind blowing for Windows 3.1 or slightly lower.
No more boring coffee breaks, and no more need to insert a disk into your computer. No need to penetrate your computer. The games are already there.
That's right. You ask and you get. This is all consensual play. Since we're just gonna keep running, we're just gonna keep living in that gutter for this episode.
Speaking of which, we're going to talk about one of our first games from this, which I feel like was almost a status symbol, or status symbol, as the English would say, Joe,
Status.
which was Microsoft Minesweeper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which, Joe, nowadays, when is the last time you ever spoke to someone about Minesweeper?
Mark, I think this may be the first time I've spoken to you about Minesweeper because I can't. Obviously, I played it. I had friends that played it, but it was never a game that like we hung out and be like, "Hey, man, how far did you get in Minesweeper?" Mostly because I think I was too much of an idiot to really talk about it because I think as a child I didn't really understand Minesweeper all that well, or they just click squares to hopefully not hit a bomb.
Yeah.
So I know like there were patterns involved, and you got point values based on the squares you did click versus the ones that you didn't. But I never bothered to really figure out how it worked. It was just click, click, click. I didn't die. All right, here we go. Minesweeper. That's how it's done.
Dude, I was the same way. All I ever did with Minesweeper was I would start up a game. I'd adjust the parameters so that I could click on something, but then it would like auto clear most of the field except for the stuff that was like the nearest to the mines. So I'd be like, hey, look at me. I just cleared like 30 blocks. Okay. And it's like, yeah, but I'm still really stupid and can't figure this game out. But I remember, Joe, one of the first times I saw Minesweeper, okay? This was like circa 1994, 95. We were at a neighbor's house in the military, and one of my dad's officer friends had loaded it onto his PC. It was there. And there's him and like 3 or 4 other army dads around this computer. It almost felt like the NFL draft day. And they're all looking at this thing on the screen. And I'm like, just a tiny kid, looking around like going, what are they doing? And one of the officers is sitting there like pointing to the other guys going like, yeah, you see, look, that there's a spot there. There's a number there. That means there's a mine here and a mine there. And like these guys are just looking at each other like going, oh my God, this is mind-blowing stuff, this is. And I just swear to God, Joe, if there was like one of the dudes who just like made the Italian Spider-Man face, it would have been perfect, just the future is now.
Oh my God.
Like it was so ridiculous. It's like burnt into my brain now watching these grown men around Minesweeper, and like this is the best thing ever. So I just can't get over that. But dude, created by Kurt Johnson, ported by Robert Downer, and released in 1990. It actually took about 2 years to get released with the Microsoft Entertainment Pack. Of the entertainment packs, I think we talked about this, there's 4 of them that came out. And so we're going to jump around a little bit here, but we got to start off with Minesweeper. I just feel like it's too recognizable.
Oh,
to let it go.
completely. Like as far as like free iconic games, this is definitely it because like you said like no more boring lunch breaks or coffee breaks. Like I feel like this became the quintessential that if you were old enough to have worked in a call center and you just got the entire center got new PCs replaced and no one really knew enough to like think about this entertainment pack that was installed on them. They're like, oh no, you can just take the calls on them, and then someone finds fucking Minesweeper. They're just sitting there taking calls, clicking away, just minesweeping the whole night. It was hours upon hours of entertainment, and it was one where again it was conceivably like easy enough to play. Like you've got someone on the other on a call on the other line, they're not gonna know what the hell you're doing. So you could just click away, click, click, click. Oh no, I died. I'm still on the same call. Oh yeah, yep. Tell me about your problems. What's your computer doing now? And then you're just clicking, clicking, clicking. Give me a second. I've got to go through my system here. Click, click, click. Boom. Shit. I mean, never mind. I found it.
Yeah.
Don't you worry, ma'am. Just turn it off and turn it on again.
Look at me. Type it in my notes. You have no idea. You're not aware.
No.
Yeah,
Did the
dude.
game have a note feature?
No. I just
No,
mean in
just-
general.
yeah.
Like
That's- okay, yep.
they have
hold
no
on, how
they
much
have no
of this game
idea.
Did I not explore when I was?
I was gonna say,
like,
well, hey, depending on how little you played it, there were some changes to it later on because it was rebranded as Flower Field at one point in time.
no.
And then there was even a player v player version of it called Minesweeper Flags. You know, capitalizing on I think the flag capture the flag fascination of the '90s, but also just the fact that there's flags all over Minesweeper anyway.
I mean, you just put them down there. Let people know that that's where the mines were. So
I mean, you got to know. So, but moving along though, there's a lot more in these entertainment packs, Joe, as you've mentioned. And speaking of ones that people most likely got fired for playing, the game of solitaire, Joe.
who could not? Like this is one that definitely I can't think of a single Gen X / millennial who had a computer at this time who did not play the absolute fuck out of solitaire. Like all of us did, and this is before Spider Solitaire, when apparently regular solitaire was too boring to do with your nothing to do time. So we have this is actually made by an intern, Wes Cherry, based on a similar game called Klondike, which, to my knowledge, has nothing to do with the frozen treat of any kind.
I don't
Not
think
there.
so. No
No.
polar bears in this game unless
No.
they added that pack in.
And for as much effort as Wes put into this game, completely upstaged by one Susan Kerr. And you know why? Because she made all the designs for the cards that you could choose. Because you could customize the deck that you were playing with and pick the back of it. And these were anything from like I played a lot with a castle is what I believe I used when I was playing. But there's a whole bunch of stuff on there. And I think some of them even had like some slight animation to them. Nothing crazy, but a different color would move along the card or something. So it was a game where there was just enough customization to keep you like, oh hey, I can make the cards look how I want. How fun is that? And would just be one more point of contention among the family over who changed the cards. I had this as the castle. And then
I mean,
you'd be
Joe,
mad over nothing.
that was the kind of strife we had on May 22nd, 1990. That was what was available to us. And what I love about Wes Cherry, though, there's a story about this that came out years later, was that he apparently made a key code that would allow you to go to a fake Excel sheet. Excel sheet. So if you're playing solitaire and you quickly need to ditch your office overlords looking at you, you could hit this switch and suddenly boom, it's like, yep, here's that same spreadsheet I've just been looking at for so long.
So,
And
do you think he got mad when ESPN came out with the boss button or the work button for the fantasy pages? And Wes was like, that was mine. That was mine.
you know what? Microsoft asked him to remove it because they thought it was too dishonest for 1990. I mean, honestly, when I look back at solitaire, for one, there's the fact that when you win solitaire and the bouncing cards just shooting all over that screen,
Endlessly.
I mean,
Yeah.
you didn't need an orgasm in 1990 if you had the finish to solitaire. That's basically how that went.
No,
And
that's what I imagine. What everyone just thought, coming looked like when you were younger. It's just the cards fly. That's what it is.
dude, I'll fight anybody who doesn't agree with me on that. Seriously, that's what the email is there for. Write in if you don't like it.
Yeah.
But
It was just sheer bliss and not euphoria. What's the word I'm looking for? Just I don't know. At this point, I'm going to replace my words with just the slow motion of these cards coming down and maybe an orgasm sound.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
why don't we
That
just
was-
call it
that was
like orgasmagoria or something? I don't know. There's got to be a decent. I don't know. But ultimately,
That's what it is.
well, there's a couple things about solitaire, Joe, that are worth pointing out. There are numerous people who have said that solitaire really did help people learn how to use the Windows operating system in the early 90s just because of how simple it was. And of course, we've talked about this. It's popularly blamed for a lack of productivity and most likely firing as well in the business world. But Joe, there is one game here that I would like to go into for a moment.
Okay.
That because I'm half Asian, I feel like I must call this one out. Which jokingly I called the Asian solitaire, which is Taipei with an exclamation mark. And it was once again another part of the Microsoft Entertainment Pack, Joe. So it's got an exclamation point. You can't not pronounce that. Okay.
That's solely what I was laughing at, is the fact that you exclaimed Taipei, much like the old Jeb campaign that was once there. So just we have to be excited. The new Dragon Ball game is coming out, sparking with an exclamation point. So it's Dragon Ball sparking 0.
Yeah. Seriously,
That's what it is.
like I wish there was a pixelized version of Ken Watanabe, sorry, back then, who's like, let them a Taipei, and just boom, there it is. But Taipei, Joe, as many good Asian-inspired games go, was made by a white man named Dave Norris, and this is what a lot of folks would know as mahjong in most circles nowadays, because Taipei was the initial version of that for PCs. And it was the idea of matching tiles. The tiles were moved from the board, and then you try to, get every match until you're down to nothing. It was a pretty fun game. I mean, I played this for hours just because of the fact that I was able to change the maps. I could do, various different things with it, and it was pretty cool because I'm like, look at that. That's a turtle. Look at that. It's a butterfly now. It's like the possibilities show for 1990.
So, all honesty, this one I did not play. I don't know why. Obviously, I did have I had the entertainment pack, but I never got around to playing this one. But so, my curiosity is just piqued in the fact that you have this game that involves moving tiles. It's called Taipei. It's made by some white guy named Dave, and I'm trying to think did he name it Taipei because of a love for the city in Taiwan, or was it simply, you know what, this is an Asian-looking game. It involves tiles, Asia, Taipei. And that's what Dave did. I feel like that's the process. It was just terrible 90s racism, just being thrown at this game. That provided, although, a lot of fun.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was how it went. I mean, it's like, ooh, Taipei, that sounds exotic. Ooh, look at that. Interesting. There's 2 eyes in that word. What does that do?
What sound does that make? Does it change as it goes from one eye to the next? Is it te-I, pei-I? Who knows?
I don't know. Is that Japanese for aphrodisiac? Because I'm feeling something playing this. I don't know. Yeah, we're horn dogging it today.
This is the weirdest. This is right up there with the robot sex episode way back in season 1. Just lots of fun. Lots of fun, this one. But,
yeah.
So, exactly, because this is one, I've never played it, Mark, so how did you actually play the game? So, what did you do to win this thing?
Well, basically, you just tried to make every match that you could on a randomized, shape. And as I mentioned before, the earliest one was a turtle in the first version, and then expanded out to 7 different types. But basically, you match a tile with another tile, and then when you do that, they disappear from the board. So you keep trying to do matches as best you can on the randomized tile. You kind of have to think about, okay, what am I matching with? What does that take away? And I mean, it's basically like solitaire, just using essentially domino pieces, right? Pretty fun. I mean, I played it for hours, Joe. So I did really enjoy it. But there is another game that I think I enjoyed quite a bit more, and I think you'll agree, Joe. Ski Free.
There it is. There's the one. That's mission accomplished. This is the one we've all been waiting for, because you didn't even know you were waiting for it. You had no idea that an episode on free games on your Windows 3.1 computer, as we talked about in this podcast. But here's where we are today, and you're loving it because we're loving it. We're packaging it, we're selling it, and there it is. So, Ski Free. This is probably the piece de resistance of any free game from this time, because it had action. It had like scenery. I would say romance. There was no romance. Basically, action and scenery. Yeah.
I mean, romance didn't take much in 90s media. I mean, you've seen an action movie from that era. It's like, yeah, they looked at each other. They're in love now.
They just a dead stare. They're into each other. That's what that meant.
You are my possession. We made eye contact. Welcome to the 90s, everyone.
Yes. So it's a pretty basic game, but also had choice to it, because you are going down what is seemingly an infinite mountain. There is no true end to the ski-free run. Basically, you have three choices. You have the slalom, you have the ski-free, or freestyle, and then you have the tree slalom. The two on the ends are exactly what you would think. Slalom, you just have to go through the flags, slalom style, and then you see your best time and the number of flags you hit. You hit the end of the course, and you do the same thing in the tree slalom, but with trees, simulating, like, you know, your double black diamond when you're shredding the gnar over in Colorado. But then there is simply freestyle, where there are ramps, there are other skiers. There's a dog that you can run over, and then it urinates after you run it over, because, you know, you're asshole skiing and you ran over a dog, and at least it's still alive, but it peed everywhere. And
hey, Joe, what happens to you if you crushed your entire digestive system? I mean, you're getting one of two possibilities.
Yeah.
So
you're bleeding out, or you're just releasing the bowels.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of how it works. That's just what it is. And then, you know, there are ramps, and you hit a ramp, and you can make your skier either do a front flip, they can do a back flip, they can spin to the sides, and if you are not fast enough, or if you're too fast at doing either of these, your skier is going to wipe out and just hit the ground.
To be fair, though, that little skier, I mean, he was doing stuff white people couldn't even dream of at that point in time. I mean,
little impossible. Like, I mean, like, white people couldn't jump, let alone, like, achieve those heights. Even with the assistance of a ramp, it was thought impossible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but what's cool about this, Joe, like a lot of ideas that kind of come out here, this wasn't an idea that just kind of came out of nowhere. It was actually one that creator Chris Perry developed when he was in college. And it was a very simplistic, like text-based game where you had slashes that represented the keys, or the skis, sorry. And when you turn, those just adjust to the appropriate backslash, forward slash, right?
Yep.
And the triangles on the screen represented the trees, and that's really all it was. It was not all that crazy. But then a programming language by the name of C literally came out. The letter
not
C,
plus
for
plus,
those of you.
Not C
Nope,
sharp.
nope. Not yet.
That far back. It is just C.
Exactly.
Just
C. You coded on a piece of stone. That's how old we're talking here. But after this point, Chris continued to develop this concept that he made in college, and was playing the upgraded version of it while he was at work at Microsoft. And just like any good idea that gets taken by an executive, suddenly some dude at Microsoft walks by and goes, I think that needs to go in. We need to do that thing. And Joe, the rest is history.
It is.
And
the only sad news, well, there's two bits of sad news involved with Ski Free. Number one, as you said, when you had that early version of the game, instead of just, you know, going from 2 L's to backslash to forward slash, is that it was impossible to pizza on the mountain. And you were French frying the whole time.
Yeah,
All
no
speed.
no pizza. The
pizza.
only thing about that original version that is likely good for most players was that the abominable snowman, or as some have called the Yeti, does not appear in the original game. But man, once you're finished with the set of skiing that you're doing, that dude will come after you hard and fast, he eats you whole. Like he just opens it up and he just eats the entire skier. And it was like, how did this laid back time suddenly become a horror game?
Yeah, out of nowhere. It is just like enjoying your ski free, and then like a bat out of hell or a walkie man, talkie man from songs of old. He just comes flying in down the mountain, barreling at you. You're like, I'm pressing F. I'm pressing it as hard as I can because that makes me go faster. And he catches you no matter what.
Oh.
Every time, gobbles you right up.
Terrifying.
No escape. Yes, and
Terrifying.
And there were so many of us who thought that there were things hidden in the code. Mark, I don't know if you ever heard about this, but there are rumors, as a child, that if you did the right code combination, your skier would, in fact, pull out a gun and just shoot the Yeti, and you could keep on skiing for free.
I don't know about that story, but I do know the story of pressing F to go faster, and it is possible to continue to outrun the snowman for a while. I mean, he'll still keep trying to kill you. Don't get me wrong. Just like any bad horror character, he keeps coming back.
Like death itself. He catches up with you eventually.
Hey, some people have gotten really good at it, and they can escape this dude for a long ass time. Okay, so yeah, dude, love Ski Free. But moving along, one of my next ones that I spent an incredible amount of time with was Rodent's Revenge by Christopher Lee Fraley. This is one of those games that, once again, I don't think I've ever talked to anybody about.
No.
It's it was almost like a locked memory for a while. But then one day, Joe, and this is not fictional. I was looking at my cat Minnie, my tabby. She was sitting on our ottoman, and the way she sat looked just like how the cats do when you trap them in this game. It's just like this look of disappointment and possible judgment. And in Rodent's Revenge, you're this rodent. You're this mouse in the middle of the map, and you move these green blocks around to trap these cats in the blocks. When you do that, they turn into cheese, and of course you can eat the cheese because that's what happens when you trap a cat in real life. That's what happens. They become cheese.
Well, I mean, Mark, this is why it's a secret, or not a known. It was an internet sensation for the longest time that we, growing up, knew is that you can actually basically do a manual and hard reboot of a cat when you just throw a piece of cheese at their face. Have you seen this? They just don't know what to do, and they freak out. And that's because they're afraid they're being rebooted into the cheese from Rodent's Revenge. It's a very, very old code for them, but it still checks out. They don't like it, and they're afraid of it.
It's ancient magic, Joe.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I do have to say that much like you, when you said that this was like a lost memory, when I was looking over the notes for the episode, and I saw that, I'm like, wait a second. And I was like, oh, I don't know that game. Wait a second. I do know that game. And so I immediately Google it, and I find it online. You can all these games, by the way, you can find online and play for free through emulators, which is fantastic. And I went and I played it for a good half hour, just going around, turning cats into cheese and having a great time, like I was 11 years old again, just enjoying this for the first time. It's just a fun, simple game that does escalate quickly.
Oh,
when
yes.
You start getting to the point where they put in the immovable blocks, so you can't push the blocks you push will get stuck on them if you don't do them right. And then you get to the point where even after that, suddenly you just do not have a lot of blocks to push around. And if you don't get the cats fast enough that you start with, they multiply. And I'm pretty sure that if they eat you and you respawn, they also spawn more cats. So
it's pandemonium.
It is. It's nuts, is what it is.
Hey, it's a different kind of stress, but I hear our next game is nowhere near that level of stress, Joe, which you played a lot more of than I did, by the name of Fuji Golf.
And Mark, for as much as I absolutely love Japan, and I have had the grace to visit Fuji-san himself, and have greatly enjoyed my time in his presence. Fuck this game. Because it is 18 holes of basically just ripping you a new one. Because, so, one, in some sort of advancement for its time, it is, for a golf game that was free, it did have a lot of good things to it. You've got your main screen where you've got your golfer on the course. You can choose from a full set of clubs over what you want to hit with, each of them being able to change their varying distance. You have a mini map where you can change the angle of your golfer on where to actually hit it. And a lot of you were like, Joe, it's fucking Wii Golf, man. We've been able to do this fucking forever. And you're right. And Fuji Golf did it first. And it did it for free, which is pretty great. And it's programmed to play you for 8 holes. 18 holes, I'm sorry. 18 holes of golf on here. And it was produced by Chiki Nagai, who I think was an actual asshole. Because basically he's programmed the game so that no matter what you get, your competition is always hitting just a little better than you, especially whoever is in first place on the board. And again, your competition, these aren't golfers you're seeing play the game. You're not like watching other like computerized hitters do anything. It's just after you're done shooting for a hole, you just see a board of other imaginary players and how much better they are than you. And I'm going to say they are significantly better than you. Yeah.
Joe, these are the same people that brought us, Dark Souls, and I mean, all the toughest games come from Japan. I mean, that's why Japanese games typically have an American version that has an easier difficulty setting, and then there's the native people of Japan setting. It's just how it goes.
It is, and Mark, this game even insults you when you don't shoot well. If you get if you like shoot over par, or you get a bogey, or heaven forbid a double bogey, it'll say things like, "Huh, you must play a lot of baseball," or "Oh, gee, it must be really hot out today. Oh,
Yeah.
looks like it's just not your sport. Have you considered doing this instead?" It just rips you over and over again. And Mark, to this day, still haven't figured out putting decently. I can drive, I can chip, all of that works pretty well. But as soon as you get to the green, like there's no telling how like the green breaks. Because at least like, in modern systems, you can see through shading where you've got different elevation changes, or like, again, like it's on a hill or a slant, so it breaks it away. No, it's all just flat green. So you'll just click it and like, all right, I can see the distance, or like the power that my putter has on my mini map and how far it should go. And you click you backswing, and not to go all the way because it's not that far. And you click it, and you'll just watch your ball veer off to the side, away from the hole. And you're like, whoa, no! And you'll try fix it the next time, and it does it the opposite way, and it keeps going and breaking, and you have nothing to tell you how to do this. So I just would lose my little mind and get so mad playing Fuji Golf.
Frankly, Joe, what it means is that you need to be better. And the good news here is that we've picked a very specific game that leaves the Microsoft Entertainment Pack era, advances us a couple years, because Joe, we're taken to 1995.
Here we go,
And
baby. Yeah.
Joe, on my birthday of that year, November 16th, Joe, one of the most majestic pack-ins that the Microsoft Windows suite had ever seen had arrived, otherwise known as Space Cadet Pinball.
Yes. This is like, again, if you're a millennial, you can hear, as Mark said, Space Cadet Golf, you can hear the pinball game warm up. And just, like, begin to get ready for you to enjoy the epicness that was this game.
Oh, dude. I mean, the craziest part was years after I had played the pack-in version of it, I saw at Goodwill, there was a box that was called Full Tilt Pinball, which I had never seen before. And it was the game that Space Cadet actually came from. So it actually was a game that had 3 different 3D pinball machines. One was called Skullduggery, one was Dragon's Keep, and the third one, of course, was Space Cadet. And they just basically tweaked Space Cadet just a little bit, so that you had the iconic, little happy dude in his totally not airlocked space vehicle he's driving around. But hey, that's fine. It's fine.
Minor oversight. It's fine.
Yeah, it's invisible. It's not glass. It's just whatever. But either way, the original game was actually developed by Cinematronics and published by Maxis, the same people behind like SimCity and some of the greatest sim games from that era. But it was a pack-in game from 1995 up to about 2001 on Microsoft machines. And the 64-bit era that many of us grew up within, it struggled mightily to work beyond that point. So there was a brief moment of time where it was gone from Microsoft machines. Had a little bit of revival in like 2005, but then once again it kind of dropped out. But during that window, Joe, holy crap, I feel like I played this game. I mean, I'm happy there wasn't an hour counter like a lot of RPGs. Because seriously, like we would just have it up on the computer and people would just play it. And it was like one of the few games where we actually were trying to beat each other with high scores, like an old arcade. And we did it all the time. And I can't remember the last game that I did that with.
No, this game marked a fun like milestone in my life, or maybe not a milestone, might not be the right thing, but a fun little memory marker in my life where all the other games we talked about were on my family PC, which was located in the dining room of my family home. So, turns had to be taken between my sister, my mom, and me, because my sister and mom would play solitaire, and there's the ones who I'd yell at for changing my castle. And basically we had to wait. And then I remember, out of nowhere, one day, I come home, and in my bedroom that I shared with my brother, because small home in tiny Wisconsin, he's on a computer in our bedroom. And the computer has Windows 95, which is better than the 3.1 that we're still summoned with downstairs on the family compact. And this is the game he's playing. And I cannot remember the last time I literally just sat and watched my brother play a video game, because this was the time that I did it. I mean, there were a lot of things that came into play. Like, of course, we had a PlayStation, and my brother would play Resident Evil, but he was usually with a friend who thought I was annoying, so I would just vacate the area. But this game, he was just there, and he was playing, and I could just watch him play. And when he was finally done with it, and I got to go on and play it, and then he would actually watch me play it, because he was done playing it, but then he'd like, I'll watch. And then we literally would take turns playing and watching each other play this game, which we had never done with a PC game before. It was just, in its simplicity, captivating. And also in its simplicity that it works so much like a real pinball game, where you could hit the flippers and it'd change the lights that the pinball had passed through in different parts of the game, to try and build up bonuses, do different unlocks with it. And it was just fun to, like you said, just keep switching off and trying to beat each other's high score. And it just unlocked a lot of simple fun that really, for the first time, but like a generation before, with Donkey Kong and Jumpman and Pac-Man and a lot of these like Atari and early Nintendo games, is it brought really a piece of the arcade home. Because before that, I don't know how many opportunities you had to play pinball at home, unless you had a massive pinball game, which, Mark, a lot of real estate for any one given room.
I did own an old school Bally's pinball machine. My parents got it for me when I was 16 or 17. And that thing took up like 1/5 of my room. So it was much easier to play it on a computer. But to your point, Joe, I mean, we were trying to do everything with this game, like activate the lights in a certain part to get you a bonus. And after a while, Joe, when you really get into the zone with this game, it's like the paddles, they feel like an extension of your manhood. The extra pinballs that you get, they feel like they're your extra balls, And so it was just there's something about it, man. It hit all the right notes.
And on that note, I think it's time that we end the episode just like it came in, and we'd like to thank all of you for listening to the Digital Dissection podcast. As always, we appreciate all the Dissection crew does for us week after week, and your support goes a long way, and I mean that in the least sexual of ways. And if you did like this episode, please check us out on YouTube, where we make weekly videos about our favorite things.
Hey, and we do also love hearing about you, especially your disgust at today's conversation, but feel free to message us over at digitaldissectionpodcast@gmail.com or in our communities across social media. We'd love your ideas, suggestions, and, well, pretty much anything, so long as it's more tastefully done than what we've done here today. And until next time, pop culture nerds, keep on dissecting.
Hoo ha! I got you.